What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fifth album by country rap artist Colt. Basically, this album is called Thanks for Listening, and it came out in the summer of 2014. Now, I got introduced to Colt through Bubba Sparks. Basically, on Bubba Sparks' Comeback 2013 album, he had a Colt feature on there, and I kind of had him on the back burner for cats I was going to mess with later on. This is finally the point of getting to doing that. So this is definitely something I'm new. I would say I'm new to Colt and I wanted to see what he's about. And this is a pretty super stellar project. This is definitely going to get a rave score on here. This is like a good meshing of country rap. Definitely something like a little bit more country fried than folks like Nelly and Bubba Sparks and Haystack and Jelly Roll and some of those type folks. But I definitely wanted to get towards this. And this is a pretty, like I was saying, super stellar project. And this is, like I was saying, a pretty super stellar project. Has a number of singles on here, and it's just an overall package of fun. This really showcases the country lifestyle and more rural type stuff pretty damn well. I definitely think the effectiveness of it. I would have liked maybe some folks. I think one of the few complaints I can really think of this project. I think one of the few complaints I can really muster about this project is maybe I would have liked someone like Bubba Sparks or Jelly Roll on here, or Struggle Jennings, someone like that, one of those type cats. But for the most part, this is really, there's a ton of like country hook artists on here that do a pretty good job. There's a ton of country hook artists on here that do an extremely good job. So there's definitely some radio ready type commercial type stuff that really works extremely well. I just would have to say it's got a real hooky batch of things. This is really something that I feel like on like the country pop charts and country hip hop charts, I definitely feel like this probably charted pretty well. From what it seemed like, it said that Wikipedia said that this hit number 10 on the Billboard 200, which is pretty good. It's because Colt wasn't around in like the early 2000s. He just showed up in like the late 2000s, like 2007, 2008, 2009 and stuff. So he'd really, this is his fifth album. So he was there throughout the early 2010s and stuff. But yeah, to hit his stride that quickly is pretty damn good, especially considering that. But that's just kind of the concept about it. It's interesting to kind of have this happen just because just probably 6 years before this album came out, he wasn't there as much. But I just would have to say, just looking after this is a good project here, and I definitely like the concept of it. Just some good Southern pride, and a lot of this is pretty summery. This is like Uncle Cracker and Jelly Roll and Bubba Sparks and some of those type folks, but it's just like a whole country fried, Southern fried type hip hop album, I just would have to say. So it's just packed full, where you get the kind of you do get some of like the malaise kind of makeshift. There's some makeshift kind of country rap tunes on here where it's rapping on here, but it does have that makeshift sense of just something to listen to when it's like 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock p.m., something like that. Those type tunes. It's like the sun setting and that type of stuff. But then it also has like some party tunes on here. Has some good kind of summery kind of pit stop type tunes. Has some good summary pit stop type tunes and just traverse tunes and things like that. It's just a good kind of spread of just a good spread of like summary type bops that just have a lot of country pride and just overall rural appeal that just works. So I would have to say it's pretty nice stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the singles. There were four of these, and like they didn't chart like on the Billboard 100 and stuff, but on like some of the country charts, like some of these, like the High Life at least hit the country charts decently well, hit like the top 35, top 40 of like the country pop charts. Working on was an RIAA single that went platinum, so that's pretty good. That's popular certification as far as that kind of happens. And then Crank It Up was a song that kind of was on like the borderline country chart. So a lot of these did pretty well. So I just would have to say, but yeah, it's just kind of the fact that I kind of feel like Colt is kind of off to the wayside. I feel like he still was getting ready to get larger, but this is pretty much like a pretty breakout album. This is definitely like, it's very hooky and very commercial, I'd have to say. So it just has like a lot of affable country hip hop in like a sense as far as that commercial flair. So talk about the High Life. This is definitely a nice one. This is kind of a summery country makeshift hit single, I would have to say. It's vanilla country rap. It's a vanilla country rap hit with like some bustle about it. So this is one. It's kind of feel this is very hooky type one. This is a very factory and hooky type one that just works for that sort of country malaise, just in like July, August, something like that. Just really kind of being near a truck and tailgating, some of that type of stuff. Just traverse on dirt roads and gravel roads as far as that kind of happens. So just would have to say it's just a nice one to kind of have. It's more countryside gazing as far as that kind of happens, but it's just pretty much like a good one to kind of have in that sense. As far as like the High Life has some evening malaise about it. This is a good one to kind of have just as like the work hours are wrapping up and as things get ready to happen, get ready to pop off for the night, whether you just truly are going home just to relax for the night or you're going out for a little bit. It's kind of an in-between type tune that just works as like a good just standard living kind of loud pack for like country area type stuff, as far as just like some decent kind of 4 o'clock p.m. and 5 o'clock p.m. type makeshifts. A good one. And then the second single, Working On, is another one just like that. This one's a little bit later in the evening, but I definitely like this one. working on is kind of a late day makeshift haze. I would have to say it's an easy kind of blue collar country rap tune for like a regular afternoon. I just would have to say so. This one's a little bit more kind of burnt skies. I would just have to say just a good kind of concept to kind of get as far as that one kind of happens. A little bit more makeshift. This one's kind of more factory and just kind of more standard as far as that kind of happens. Just more steadfast. Where I feel like the high life is a little bit more recreational, a little bit more kind of kickback and just a certain degree of like summery R&R. I feel like this one's kind of a little bit more, just kind of steadfast type feel about it that just kind of still has some bustle and just like a more industrial sense, I'd have to say. So it's a good one. These are 2 hit singles, definitely work pretty well. And but the third single is Crank It Up, and I severely like this song. This is probably one of my favorite songs off the album. Crank It Up is probably one of my favorite songs off the album. This is an electro kind of country dance type tune. I would have to say it's got a nice bounce and social fare for some outings, I would definitely have to say. So this is just a really nice one. This really works as like an electro hit that just kind of has the most jive. Basically one of the most festive songs on the album. If you definitely like some of that EDM type energy and just standard dance bounce and a more kind of up-tempo kind of sense and just with a lot of electricity, I'd say this is pretty much your song to turn to. This one definitely should have charted higher than it did. I feel like this is just a great house party and this overall nightclub bop that just brings country rap to the forefront in terms of like commercial fare as far as like that dance party, as far as that dance party vibe, as far as that kind of happens. So this one has pretty much the most energy of all the singles. But I would have to say there's another one that's like it, and that's Dirty Side, the 4th single. Dirty Side, the 4th single, is definitely a pretty highlighted one on here. Great single, probably my second favorite single out of the 4 on here. This is a vacay type tune. It's a hit summer heat blaze of a song, I would have to say, and it's just a lazy kind of ladies tune with like a slow burn type feel about it. So this is definitely one that just kind of has like that after effect that just really hits later. I just feel like this is one that you listen to, the more you listen to it, just starts to hit heavier and heavier, I would have to say. It's a really great kind of summer, just car wash kind of party, something like that. Just summer heat, just kind of kick back, this blazing hot July, something like that, just in like the scorching kind of heat wave kind of skies as far as that kind of happens. Just a real kind of winter as far as that kind of happens. Just a late kind of highlight and slow burn type feel that just works extremely well. It's just a nice one to kind of have. Easy kind of hit song. Yeah, talk about the rest of the songs on this album. So talk about the rest of the songs on this album. So there's 12 songs on this album, and out of those 12, I wound up recommending to you 10. So yeah, this album's going to get a 10 out of 10. There's definitely some highlighted ones on here. Definitely like this album that much, but I just would have to say like a pretty hit song on here is Sip It Slow. This is kind of a good beer swilling tune. I would have to say this is like a lazy, summery kind of beer swilling haze of a song I would definitely have to talk about. And this is like an easy kind of countryside R&R type tune, and it's just a good reflective song. This one just kind of tells you to sip your beer or sip your drink pretty slow and just kind of take it easy, that type of stuff. Just a good one to kind of have for that sort of sense. I mean, this song's a little bit preachy. I kind of look after it's just more of a wisdom type song, but it's definitely a good one when you do have some drink in your hands. You just want to reflect and kind of kick back on the scenery and that type of stuff. It's just a good one to kind of appreciate the sights as far as that kind of goes. Just a real kind of malaise kind of tune as far as that kind of happens. Just great for like late August, late July, something like that in the simmering skies, I'd have to say. Just a real nice one. Another good crunk type tune on here that's pretty similar to Crank It Up and Dirty Side would be Outshine Me. This is definitely like a paced kind of riveting house party gem, I would have to say. It's good for some evening fare, and it's just an out and about kind of pal. This is one where you're stepping out a little bit just in the country. You're stepping out a little bit just within the countryside, getting some drinks, getting some beers, getting some Jim Beams and stuff like that. Just getting errands done, some of those things, bills paid, those last minute tasks taken care of and stuff. This is just an out and about pal for getting ready to have some times. I feel like this is, like I was saying, this is a great pairing with Crank It Up and Dirty Side. This works pretty well as far as some outing, as far as that kind of happens. Just a definite nice one. Kind of a good summer gazing type tune on here is Crickets. This is a good kind of mid-tempo countryside haze of a song, I would definitely have to say. It's just good for some rural activities, definitely, and it's just a laid-back kind of sunset evenings kind of song. So this is one, it talks about just listening to the crickets out in the wilderness and that type of stuff, or out in the countryside as far as that kind of happens. Just really appreciating the sights as far as that kind of goes. Just an easy kind of going one. This is the sort of song I'd like to see Jason Aldean make more of, folks like him, some of those type folks, Florida Georgia Line, something like that. It's kind of a good kind of hangout. Crickets is a good hangout ladies song, I would have to say. It's just a good bop on here to kind of have in that sort of sense. Just a nice one. Thanks for Listening is a pretty good highlight on here. This is just a lazy kind of hot afternoon kickback song, I would definitely have to say. It's an AC/DC like blaze of a song, definitely, and it just is some out and about fun. This is just kind of one just being out and about. Thanks for Listening is kind of an outing song just for like summer fare as far as that kind of happens. Just something to listen to uptown, downtown, some stuff like that. Just kind of in like a more rural area as far as that kind of goes. Just near a corner store, convenience store, drugstore, something like that. Just getting some things done, just picking up like stamps or burgers, something like that, just getting some food and just overall standard things just in the summer traverse as far as that kind of happens. Just a nice one to kind of have. Another good summer highlight for this particular album is Washed in the Mud. This is like an afternoon commerce tune. I would have to say it's a summary during the workday kind of blaze of a song, definitely. And it's just good for some pit stop kind of tune. So this is one where you look after it where it's not quite where work is done yet. It's something that you could listen to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's something you could listen to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe you just have to get like a coffee or something like that, or have to get like some Burger King, something like that. Just some snacks in the afternoon. You're just on lunch break, something like that. Just kind of have just making pit stops is during the workday kind of blaze, especially in like June, July, August. This has a real country fried type feel, especially in like June, July, August, as it's like scorching and that type of stuff. I would definitely have to say so. That's a good one to kind of have. And then She's Like is another highlight. And then She's Like is a pretty good highlight off this album. This is like a rocking kind of makeshift Traverse gem, I would have to say. It's a good warm blaze of a song, definitely. And it's a good warm blaze ladies bop, I would have to say. And it's just got some real good radio ready feel. So this is pretty commercial one. There's a lot of these that are kind of on here that are like that. I feel like Dirty Side is a good example of that. Sip It Slow is pretty good at that. She's Like is definitely a good one. Crank It Up is a good highlight for that. There's just some real kind of highlighted ones as far as that kind of happens. Most of the singles kind of have some hookiness about them that just works extremely well. It's just a country fried version of like some hooky. This album is just like a country fried kind of commercial type fare as far as that kind of happens. I actually think the surprising thing about it is when it comes to country rap, I think that Colt Ford is actually a pretty affable dude that has a lot more commercial marketability than what I thought he did, considering the fact that I kind of didn't know that much about him compared to folks like Bubba Sparks and like Struggle Jennings and Jelly Roll and some of those type folks. It's interesting because he's actually probably one of the ones I'd say that might be at the forefront of this particular style and niche that's kind of been out. I mean, country rap has kind of been around in like certain areas, but I don't know if it was around like back in like 1999 and 2003 and some of those type moments. It's just interesting kind of get this, but it works. This is definitely one. There's just some hookiness about it, and She's Like is definitely one. This is a Traverse song that kind of works for being on the road and that type of stuff, just being out and about, kind of like Washed in the Mud, and then Thanks for Listening, some of those type ones. And maybe even Outshine Me, some of those type ones to kind of have. So it's just got some good bustle about it. So that basically takes care of the album. So to talk about the two songs I didn't recommend on here, which would just be Cut 'Em All and then Farm Life. Both of these were just kind of overly country fried type ones that just kind of didn't have like the affability that was probably necessary. Some of these just kind of felt like more kind of just steadfast and just kind of like a more just not necessarily homely sense, but just kind of not necessarily quite as polished is probably what needed to be. They just weren't quite as radio ready and that type of stuff. These just felt like album cuts that just didn't showcase the lifestyle that highlightedly, I just would have to say. So that's kind of the concept about it. Both those, Cut 'Em All and Farm Life, just didn't do a good example of that. But I would have to say, me basically liking 10 songs out of 12 on this album. This album's going to get a 10 out of 10. Definitely enjoyed it that much. Just a real kind of sheer highlight. Just a pretty sheer highlight. Tons of hits on here. I definitely would have to say all the singles really kick ass. There's just some good stuff on here. I definitely like Crank It Up and Dirty Side, and I definitely like the makeshift kind of after hours, kind of dusky kind of appeal of like the High Life. And then songs like She's Like, and then there's another one on here working on some of those type ones. So there's just a lot of commercial appeal that really works pretty well. And like I said, I feel like Colt Ford pretty much was at like the forefront of country rap as far as that kind of happens. I think country fans probably know him, probably like some folks would know like 50 Cent or Eminem or Snoop Dogg or some of those type folks in regular rap music. I just would have to say he seems like one of the front runners for this particular style. So that's pretty good to kind of get that. The social score I'm going to go ahead and give like the social score I'm going to go ahead and give a 10 out of 10 also, because I feel like this is at the forefront of like country music style as far as that kind of happens. This just has like a real marketed niche that just works pretty damn well, and it just has the right bustle, the right ambience, the lyrics hit pretty hard, and just overall the topics are fun too. I like the fact that the beer swilling tunes and the drinking tunes on here work, the affable, the traverse, the tailgating, the makeshift feels, just all the stuff, the bustle of like the country lifestyle, it just works, and it's very affable for the most part. Most of these songs hit extremely well, so it just has like a good lifestyle sense, and it just works perfect for like the summer. And this works great for the summer, especially like a scorching summer as far as that kind of happens. So this is just some good tunes for that. So I just would have to say 10 out of 10. In terms of the future, like Colt Ford has put out like a steady string of other albums. So there is one that at least dropped in 2023. So there is some more recent stuff. I'm going to get to some more of these. I definitely want to see some of his older albums and some stuff like that. But this is a pretty highlighted one and definitely a classic in terms of country rap that I'd have to recommend quite a bit.